November 1942. Inside the ruins of Stalingrad, the German Sixth Army continues to fight for ground that has already lost much of its strategic value. Entire districts have been reduced to rubble. Positions change hands constantly. From the perspective of the soldiers on the ground, the battle still feels active, even purposeful. But beyond the city, the conditions of the battle are already shifting. Stalingrad is no longer just a fight for control of a city. It is becoming a fixed point, a place where one army is being held in place, while another prepares to decide its fate elsewhere. At the center of this shift are two very different approaches to war. Friedrich Paulus continues to focus on the objective in front of him: securing the city, holding the line, completing the mission. Georgy Zhukov is focused on something else entirely. Not the city itself, but what can be built around it. In the summer of 1942, Germany still holds the initiative on the Eastern Front. After failing to take Moscow, the strategic focus shifts south. The objective is no longer symbolic or purely territorial. It is logistical. The oil fields of the Caucasus. Fuel has become a constraint. Without it, German operational mobility, the foundation of its early success, begins to collapse. But between the German advance and the Caucasus lies the Volga River, a critical supply route for the Soviet Union. Along this river moves everything required to sustain operations in the south. And on its western bank stands Stalingrad. At first, the city is not the primary objective, but its importance grows as the campaign evolves. And once the decision is made to take it, the German plan begins to change. Army Group South is divided. One axis advances toward the Caucasus. The other, under Paulus, moves toward Stalingrad. This division reduces concentration of force and stretches logistics across two demanding objectives. At the time, the risk is not immediately visible. The advance continues. Soviet resistance appears uneven. Momentum remains on the German side. By late August, German forces reach the outskirts of the city. Then comes the bombing. On August 23rd, the Luftwaffe carries out a massive air raid. Large sections of Stalingrad are destroyed. Fires spread across the city. From a conventional perspective, this should weaken the defense. Instead, it transforms the battlefield. Open terrain disappears. Streets are blocked. Buildings collapse into irregular defensive positions. Movement becomes restricted. The environment no longer supports maneuver warfare. It fragments it. Paulus continues the advance into the city, but the conditions are no longer aligned with the doctrine that brought his army this far. Tanks lose mobility. Coordination becomes difficult. Air support is harder to integrate. Artillery must be used cautiously. The battle compresses. Combat shifts into close proximity. Distances shrink dramatically, and Soviet forces adapt quickly. Rather than withdrawing, they position themselves as close as possible to German units. This limits the effectiveness of German firepower and reduces the advantage of coordination. The battlefield becomes a series of isolated engagements. Factories, apartment blocks, and industrial complexes become focal points of resistance. The Red October factory, the Barakati complex, the grain elevator. Each absorbs time, manpower, and attention. German forces continue to advance, but progress is slow and costly. And gradually, their focus narrows. Everything becomes about the city. At this point, the German command still assumes the battle will be decided within Stalingrad itself. Paulus concentrates his forces on capturing the remaining Soviet positions along the Volga. But outside the city, a different approach is taking shape. Zhukov is not trying to win Stalingrad in the same way. He is not attempting to push German forces out directly. He is building the conditions to isolate them. The Soviet High Command identifies a vulnerability. The German Sixth Army is heavily engaged in urban combat. Its flanks are not. They are held by Allied Axis forces, Romanian, Hungarian, and Italian units, which are less equipped and spread across extended defensive lines. This creates an imbalance, a strong center and exposed flanks. Zhukov's approach is to avoid the strongest point and strike where the structure is weakest. Operation Uranus is designed accordingly. Rather than reinforcing the fight inside Stalingrad, Soviet forces prepare a large-scale counteroffensive targeting the flanks. The objective is not to relieve pressure on the city directly. It is to encircle the forces inside it. November 19th, 1942. The operation begins. Soviet forces launch coordinated attacks north and south of Stalingrad. Romanian defenses collapse under pressure. Breakthroughs occur rapidly. Within days, Soviet units advance deep into the rear of the German Sixth Army. At this stage, the situation is still fluid. The encirclement is forming, but not yet complete. Paulus continues to operate within the city. His attention remains focused on the immediate battlefield. November 23rd. The encirclement closes. More than 250,000 German and Axis troops are now trapped. At this moment, the outcome is not yet fixed. The encirclement has formed quickly and is not fully stabilized. German forces inside still retain some mobility. A breakout is possible, but only for a limited time. Paulus recognizes this and requests permission to withdraw. The request is denied. The order is clear. Hold position. The army will be supplied by air. This assumption quickly proves unrealistic. The logistical requirements are far beyond what the Luftwaffe can deliver. Weather conditions worsen. Aircraft losses increase. Supplies fall far short of what is needed. Inside the encirclement, conditions deteriorate steadily. Food becomes scarce. Fuel runs out. Medical support is insufficient. Winter intensifies the situation. Operational capability declines. At the same time, German command launches a relief effort. Forces under Manstein advance from the southwest. They make progress. The distance between the relief force and the encircled army decreases. At one point, they come within roughly 50 kilometers. At that distance, coordination becomes decisive. If Paulus moves toward the relief force, a link-up becomes possible. But the order remains unchanged. Hold position. The Sixth Army does not move. The relief force cannot close the remaining distance alone. The operation stalls and is eventually abandoned. The final opportunity to break the encirclement disappears. From that point forward, the outcome becomes a matter of time. Soviet forces tighten the encirclement. They reduce the pocket systematically. The area controlled by German forces shrinks. Supply shortages become critical. Unit cohesion breaks down and command structures weaken. Zhukov maintains pressure and avoids unnecessary risks. Every day works in his favor. Inside the pocket, the Sixth Army continues to deteriorate. Mobility is almost non-existent. Coordination is limited. The ability to sustain resistance declines rapidly. By January 1943, the situation is no longer viable. The army is fragmented and exhausted. On January 31st, Friedrich Paulus surrenders. The remaining forces follow shortly after. The Battle of Stalingrad comes to an end. But its outcome is rooted in decisions made long before the final surrender. Paulus remained focused on the objective in front of him, while Zhukov focused on the structure around it. One fought the battle as it appeared, the other shaped the conditions that would decide it. And in that difference lies the outcome of Stalingrad. That was the story of Paulus and Zhukov in the Battle of Stalingrad. A battle shaped not only by combat, but by the decisions that determined where and how that combat would matter. If you want more war stories focused on strategy, tactics, and real historical decisions, make sure to subscribe.